This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Manny. And as Manny just said, I am Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast, and we are continuing our series. If you guys have been following along here, those of you that are listening, this year has been really, I'm excited about it because we're going around the entire state of Montana. There are 7 regions. If you ever have gone to the FWP website, or a lot of times on montanooutdoor.com, we'll show that map, and it shows the 7 regions. Those are the hunting regions and fishing regions in the state. And then inside those regions are hunting districts. And so what I've been doing is going around the state and talking with wildlife managers and others at Fish, Wildlife, and Parks to get some information about, elk herds, deer herds, what other critters are running around in those regions, and also be able to give you guys a little direction on where you might find what you're looking for. And I think a lot of these wildlife managers and that also have some really good ideas of, ideas like how to get some access to private lands, a lot of things that maybe you haven't thought of. But another thing I really want you to listen careful on with each of these is if I'm covering a region that you don't normally hunt in, it's still important to listen, because I think a lot of times we miss out. We kind of get in a rut where we're always hunting in the same place or always fishing in the same place because we kind of know it and we don't realize there's so much more. This is a huge state, and there's so much more out there, and it's good to branch out, and sometimes you can find a little bit more of what you're looking for, maybe even discover some different kinds of game that you've never hunted before, things like that. So I think you're going to have some fun with this. Now, when you're listening to this podcast, when you came here, whether you came through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or any of them, there is a podcast description that you always find. If you scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, you'll see in bold letters it says links. And then in those links are all kinds of information specific to the podcast. For example, today we're going to talk about Region 3. So there's going to be all kinds of links to different things in Region 3 that we talk about. So just refer to that. There's a really good kind of tops of the trees hunting forecast for Region 3, actually for all the regions around the state. I'll put a link to that. So be sure and look at that. And that'll give you some great information, especially like for the block management program. I'll have a link to the Region 3 block management. Going to give you a lot of great ways to be able to help plan your hunt and get you some of that precious access we all look for. Before we get going, I also want to welcome our active military out there. As I always do, I love to welcome all of you men and women in the armed forces. I am just so humbled that when you're not protecting our country and out all around the world, you take time out to listen to this podcast. And I hope we bring a little bit of home back to you, and hope you get home soon. And thank you so much for your service. We really do appreciate it. Now, let's get into Region 3. And today I'm going to be talking with Warren Hansen, and then also Morgan Jacobsen is going to join us, also from the Region 3. In fact, this is one of the rare things I get to do. I'm actually on location in the FWP offices in Region 3. I was able to sneak in here before they realized it was me. Usually they'll lock their doors immediately when they see me. No. But anyway, so let's start with you, Warren. Warren Hansen, you are the wildlife manager in Region 3. So tell us a little bit before we get going. I'm going to have both Warren and Morgan talk a bit about themselves so we get to know them a little. Tell us about yourself, where you're from originally, why you got into this FWP business and being a wildlife manager.
Yeah, well, thank you, Downrigger Dale. It's a pleasure to have you here. Glad that we could get you here into Bozeman. It's a lot more fun, I think, to do this together.
Yeah,
Face to face. And so, yeah, born and raised in Montana. I was born in Libby, and my parents were working for the Forest Service when they met there in Libby. And when I was 3 years old, my father got a job. You might know him, Barry Hansen, for the Salish and Kootenai tribes, fisheries biologist.
Yeah, I've talked to him before. I think, on this podcast. Yeah.
So in 1990, he got a job with the tribe as a fisheries biologist for Flathead Lake. So our family moved to Polson, and that's where I was raised. My mother was a nurse there at the hospital. And he probably had a lot to do with shaping the trajectory of how I got to FWP today, just interest in fish and wildlife and management of those resources for the public. And I went to school in Missoula for environmental science. Not exactly sure what I wanted to do at the time, and kind of bounced around a bunch of different subjects. Eventually sort of focused on agriculture. Was really interested in being a farmer, and studied agriculture in Montana and Brazil, and then my first job actually out of college was in Southern California, working for, I kind of diverted from agriculture at that point for a marine program, studying kelp and purple urchins and the imbalance of the ecosystem in Southern California. So I was really interested in that side. And then I bounced around working for the Forest Service, the University of Montana, and even Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. I was a block management technician and a game damage coordinator. And then in my free time, I was volunteering for Glacier National Park, which eventually turned into a really great relationship and a master's study on the reproductive biology of harlequin ducks in Glacier. So again, went back to University of Montana to do my graduate work. Met my wife there working at Glacier Park. She was a ranger for the park. And then after I graduated, bounced around again, working for the Park Service, USGS, Montana Natural Heritage Society, and then my wife and I decided to join the Peace Corps. We went to the Philippines for just about 2 years under a coastal resource management program. Long story short, working with remote coastal villages to begin to understand fisheries management and why it would be important to develop a management program for the long-term sustainability of the fisheries in the area, where bottom trawling and dynamite fishing was the dominant form of fishing in those areas.
Dynamite fishing.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, something I've always wanted to do, but they're just not legal.
It's an effective way to catch fish, let me tell you.
Oh, good God.
So came back from the Peace Corps and got a job for Alaska Fish and Game as a moose research biologist in Nome, Alaska. Was there for 6 years, studying the causes of moose population decline in several different areas, and really just absolutely loved that time in Alaska, the people. And at that time, my siblings were all about the same age, or popping out kids, and grandparents are getting older, and I was thinking it's probably time to get closer to home, and this job came available and was able to secure this job here in Bozeman just 2.5 years ago.
Wow, you have done a lot.
It's been a fun journey.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you've been all around the world. I mean, purple urchins. I thought that was just something you'd get on a playground when the bullies came around, but that must be some kind of aquatic animal, I assume. But yeah. Wow, that's really interesting, Warren. Well, I'll tell you what, he's got quite the background here, and so we're going to get into a lot with him. But I also wanted to bring Morgan Jacobsen in here, and Morgan, you're in the communications side of it as well as in the education side of it. I would imagine you guys have been a little busy on the education side. I know my email box gets pretty clogged with people going, gosh, we forgot to get Junior into Hunter's Ed, and where can I find classes? And, I try to warn people so often, don't wait till the last minute. How is that going? Are your classes here in Region 3 pretty well done, or are you still taking in some classes?
They are, now that we're well into fall at this point. A lot of our instructors, so, of course, hunter education is taught by volunteer instructors.
Right, yeah.
And they're all out hunting right now. And so it's less common to see classes this time of year. Really, our year for hunter education kicks off, the earliest class we have in this region is in Livingston, and I think they usually start in January. And then there's classes, pretty much every month from then until about, early September, end of August. And so, yeah, it's been a good year for hunter education. We're starting to see numbers come back up almost to where they used to be prior to COVID. And there's more options now for folks. There's the online class, which is now available to youth students. Used to be it was just only for adults. Now youth can take that as well. So hunter education is pretty much ongoing from in some place or another from January through the end of August in the region. We've been able to graduate several hundred students in the region this year. It's good to see all those students coming back, and of course, there's always circumstances that prevent people from being able to get into a class, and there's other options out there like the apprentice program, that are available for people. But like you said, Dale, it's always best to get into a class as soon as you can make yourself available for it.
Right. How is the youth participation going? That's always been one of my concerns, is that, I think with this digital age and that, it seems like there's a little less participation. We've seen it in fishing a bit and that. How about for hunting? Are you seeing better youth participation? Is it the same? Where do you see that?
It's a good question. I think we have maybe a bit of a biased look here in southwestern Montana in terms of youth participation, because a lot of their parents are very avid recreationists in the outdoors, and so we have very good youth participation here, and we have for a long time. We get a bit of a snapshot of that through hunter education, because a lot of those students come through, and even if they take the class online, the youth students still have to go through an in-person field day, and so we get time with them. We get time to run them through some hands-on exercises with firearms, and it's a really valuable experience for them, I think, and one that I think they enjoy quite a bit.
Morgan, tell us a bit about yourself. How long have you been with FWP, and what got you into this outdoor business?
Yeah, I joined FWP a little over 5 years ago. I grew up in Montana. I grew up in Miles City. Went to high school there, graduated, and attended Miles Community College. Was a wildland firefighter for the Bureau of Land Management for a few seasons while I was getting through college. Finished my degree at Utah State University, and same degree as Warren in environmental science, and I had a communications emphasis as part of that. After college, my first job was I was a writer for a newspaper in Salt Lake City for a few years, and so I met my wife at Utah State. We lived in Salt Lake for a few years, and then we moved to Price, Utah, where I worked for the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, doing pretty much the same thing I'm doing now, just different region, different state, but focused on communications and education. And then we moved back to Montana in 2019, and then that's when I started this job. So my current job is communication and education program manager for the region, and so that includes all the public communication that you see from FWP out of this region, and news releases, social media, and just general information for the public. And then, like we've talked about, hunter education is kind of the biggest education program that I'm a part of, and there's some other smaller ones too.
Are you seeing more participation with youth getting into bow hunting, or is it still more of the general rifle season? What are you seeing there?
You know, the bulk of youth hunting is still in the rifle season. We do have a bow hunter education program as well.
Sure, yeah.
Numbers for that have been pretty low. Even though our classes have been limited, we still haven't seen huge enrollment in those bow hunter education classes. Even though, you know, Bozeman Region 3 is kind of a mecca for bow hunting, I think.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an odd thing that I don't think we fully understand. But among adults, bow hunting is still very popular. Hasn't quite reach the youth to that same extent, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a dexterity thing where they're not quite there yet or what, but I know bow hunting is so popular across Montana. I did a podcast here a while back with the president of the Montana Bow Hunters Association, and I had no idea that, I mean, it's amazing how many people are out there hunting with bows now. It's pretty incredible. So,
yeah.
So if you got kids listening out there, get into bow hunting too. Well, Morgan, I appreciate you spending time with us here too, and jump in wherever you want as we go along here and learn more about Region 3. So, Warren, back to you. So right now we're sitting in, is this your library we're in here?
That's right. Yeah, this is our library here in the Bozeman headquarters office.
There's a lot of stuff in this room.
There's a lot of history here all around us. Yeah.
So here in the offices, then why would you come in here, just to look up different things? What are all these books and everything entail here?
Yeah, you know, it's maybe a little bit more of an archive. So you look around the room and you can see wildlife management plans dating back to the 50s, and different documents from, you know, some of the first elk translocations, starting, you know, those new elk populations, bringing them from Yellowstone onto Fleecer Game Range, I think was the first translocation of elk into the state. Translocations of all those species, you know, bighorn, mountain goat, pronghorn, sort of that back from the brink era, bringing wildlife back, and then all those different series of fish and wildlife plans that, you know, are important texts to retain, and then a lot of our, you know, basic biology books that we can come back to and reference. You know, I'm looking across the room. You know, research and management techniques for wildlife and habitat. You know, so those types of books are just a good archive to have.
Elk of North America. I mean, all in all. And for those of you listening, we always do an article when we, in podcast terms, drop the podcast. But it's an article about the podcast. And I'm going to take some pictures in here, and so I'll put that in the podcast article. So when you go to MontanaOutdoor.com, you can take a look at that, and you'll see what we're talking about here. Pretty cool. There's a lot of information in this room. So do you come in here to refer to stuff quite often then? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Look back at our historic management plans, what we've done in the past, try not to repeat history, and learn from how we've done it for the past 70 years.
Mm-hmm. Give me a little brief description of Region 3, as far as what Region 3 entails, maybe a little bit about its size and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Region 3 is the southwest corner of Montana. We've got area biologists stationed in Livingston, Bozeman, Sheridan, Dillon, Butte, Townsend, and Helena.
Okay.
So those are our 7 different areas of responsibility for our area biologists. We also have a non-game biologist stationed here in Bozeman. We've got wolf specialists scattered throughout the state, grizzly bear specialists, and wildlife technicians scattered about the region to support our wildlife program. So, from west to east, we've got, a bit of the Pintlers, the Beaverhead Mountains, the Big Hole River, into the Pioneer Mountains, and then coming over into the Beaverhead, the Jefferson, the headwaters of the Missouri, the Gallatin, and the Madison, coming together there in Three Forks. Helena, I might have left out Helena as one of our area biologists. Helena's included in Region 3. And Canyon Ferry, Bozeman, and then the Madison Range, the Gallatin Range, into Paradise Valley. So that's the corner of Montana. It's a pretty special place. Growing up in the northwest corner of Montana and now living in Bozeman, it's just at a really nice spot of a mix of both that forested alpine meeting the prairie. And I think I'm sure that's why Region 3 has got such a rich diversity of wildlife. It's just got that mix of lodgepole, Doug fir forest, meeting really fertile agriculture valley bottoms and rivers. It's a great region.
Yeah, it's quite a destination. A lot of the out-of-state folks really, I think, key on this area and that. We're going to take just a quick break here, and then when I come back with Warren Hansen and Morgan Jacobsen, we'll get into talking a bit about where this game is at. We'll talk a little bit about public land versus private land, talk a little bit about that access and that, plus a whole lot more. So we'll do that right after this. My friends at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer are proud authorized dealers of some of the most highly revered brands in the world, like CM Truck Beds, Diamond C Trailers, and of course, Boss Snowplows. Now, I know some of you may not want to think about this right now, but sorry, we have to face the fact that before we know it, fall will be over and winter will be with us for a long time. Now, last winter, we got off a little easier than in the past years, but this year it will likely be much different. Now, why do I say that? A while back, I did a podcast with Matthew Rosencrans in the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center. He said that his long-term prediction models show that Montana and other areas in the Northwest are in for more precipitation this winter. Could be lots more. Of course, that means snow, and that means driveways, parking lots, and roads will need to be plowed. And of course, that means you'll want a Boss snowplow to get the job done quickly and perfectly every time it snows. And that, my friends, can only mean one thing. You need to talk to Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer right now about a Boss snowplow for your truck, tractor, ATV, or UTV, or whatever you're going to put it on. You need to do this now before they run out of them. You'll be prepared for what is coming because not only will you have the best snowplow in the world that is perfectly designed for what you want to put it on, but the folks at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer will install it for you so it works the first time and every time. Now, this is the time, my friends, to be ready this winter with the best. A Boss snowplow from Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Now, if you're in the area, you can just stop by at 5680 Expressway in Missoula, Montana, or you can just go see them at rmtte.com. rmtte.com. Take a look at all the Boss snowplows they have right now, as well as the other equipment like CM Truck Beds and Diamond C Trailers that will also make your life so much easier this winter. Yeah, there's no better place to get ready for winter than Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Go see them now at rmtte.com. That's rmtte.com. We are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. My guests are Warren Hansen. He's a wildlife area manager in Region 3, along with Morgan Jacobsen. He is in the communications and education side. And these two gentlemen are spending some time with me, and we're learning all about Region 3. And we're just getting started here with all kinds of great information. Now, you gave us kind of a description, Warren, of what Region 3 looks like, which, by the way, Morgan, if you want to jump in anytime, just jump right in there. But talk a bit about as far as public and private land for hunting. Access is real big with all of us hunters. We never get enough. We're always looking for more. But talk a bit about that as far as how much is public, how much is private, if you've got that info for me.
Yeah, I do. It's a pretty good split of public and private here in Region 3, and I got to give a big shout out to some of our Helena staff, particularly Kevin Petrusny, for generating a lot of today's statistics for me. I asked him for, but Region 3 is just over 12 million acres in size, and that includes 156,000 acres of Yellowstone National Park that is in Montana, and that comprises about 13% of in Region 3. Statewide, Region 3 comprises about 13% of the state, and about 9% of the private land in the state. So private acres in Region 3 is just over 5 million acres. Our public land in Region 3 is just over 7 million acres, or about 23% of the state total.
Wow.
So we've got about 4 million of those acres are Forest Service, a little over 1 million is BLM, a little over 500,000 is state trust land. And then in terms of other access, Region 3 actually ranks last in block management in terms of number of acres. We just have about 7% of the total state is in Region 3 block management, just over 500,000 acres. And one of the more interesting statistics, I think, is that and I think this speaks well to the wildlife opportunities in Region 3. In that 7% of block management in Region 3, we see about 10 times more hunters per acre,
really?
Than the statewide average, utilizing those 500,000 acres of block management in Region 3. It's real productive land, and a lot of people come to use it.
Why do you suppose that is then? Just because there's good wildlife density in that block management, or just due to just how popular this area is?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
We got good density of wildlife. We have a lot of elk, mule deer in this part of the state, and a lot of people come to access it, access that opportunity, and use those block management resources that we have.
Well, let's get into the wildlife opportunities here as far as hunting goes. Would you say that Region 3 attracts more big game hunters, or is it more bird, or evenly split? What would you say there?
I would definitely say it's a big game region.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah. We certainly have some good upland opportunities, especially in the recent few years where we've been developing this pheasant release program. A lot. I don't have the statistics at hand, but I think the majority of the pheasants that we're releasing statewide, Canyon Ferry Wildlife Management Area is receiving a big percentage of those pheasants. And so that's a great opportunity for looking for pheasants. We also have great opportunity for mountain grouse, particularly those blue grouse and rough grouse. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are coming to this region to identify those opportunities. It's kind of surprising. You're seeing a lot of people now who are calling the office, looking to harvest all the grouse species. And, blue grouse is one of those. It's a little bit tougher to find across the state, but Region 3's got, good opportunities to get up into the alpine and find those harder to find grouse species. But we also have some, a few sharp tails and a few sage grouse available in the region.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of, like you said, Warren, it's the diversity that's here, not only geographically, but also just the opportunities. I mean, it really just about, I think, any species you can hunt in Montana, you can find in Region 3. And it's the only region that has a bison hunting season that's state licensed, right? But yeah, wolves, bears, elk, grouse, ducks. It's got everything.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And Warren just mentioned about the pheasant, the youth pheasant and waterfowl weekend just got over with. How did that go for Region 3? Did you get pretty good participation with the kids?
I think it went really well, and part of the reason why that tends to be a success every year is because of partner organizations like Pheasants Forever.
Yeah.
They do a really good job with some outstanding youth programs to not just recruit new hunters, but to give them a really quality experience with good dogs and handlers and people who just enjoy providing that experience for new hunters. So that, in large part, is what's helped make that youth weekend a success.
Yeah, I got a picture from one of our listeners that they emailed to me not too long ago, and he had brought his grandson out, and Pheasants Forever provided them a dog, and so they had the dog in the picture with them too. And he said it was really a great experience for his young grandson to be able to work with a dog and see how that all fits with the whole bird hunting opportunity. So
yeah, I mean,
Pheasants Forever, hats off to them for doing things like that.
They do a great job. There's a couple of chapters here in our region. There's the Headwaters chapter out of Helena, and then there's the and I'm blanking on the name. I apologize for the kind of the Bozeman area, but they really make that weekend a highlight for a lot of families.
Yeah, it's I love that Montana has been great to have all these different organizations that are willing to partner with FWP. And I mean, it really is kind of a neat group effort that you guys have invited and got both public and private organizations and all that all working together to get that. And I think that's important because given those youth opportunities, that's our future, going forward, because obviously if people aren't buying hunting licenses, none of us get to do any of this. So it's important. Yeah. Warren, let's talk a bit about elk in this area. I know that that kind of tends to steal the show a little bit. As far as the press, everybody, wants that big picture of that huge, Boone and Crockett bull that's, bigger than anything. Would you say that Region 3 is well known for elk hunting, or where would that kind of stack up as far as why people come to Region 3 to hunt?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that's the number one reason why people are drawn to Region 3 is for the elk hunting opportunity. Again, you think about what that ideal elk habitat looks like, those alpine meadows, aspen, mixed mosaic timber. That's pretty much all of Region 3. Our last year total for elk observed by our wildlife biologists was just over 54,000 elk in the region. And that's, again, just what we observe. That's not the estimated total, which will be substantially higher than that, which comprises 38% of observed elk in the state is in Region 3. Last year, the Region 3 harvest was just over 11,000 elk, or 44% of the statewide harvest came out of Region 3. And it was over 1,000 of those were archery elk, or about 34% of the statewide total for elk harvested with archery equipment. And that was about 44,000 hunters on the ground looking for elk to harvest.
That's just archery?
No, that's total.
Elk.
Yeah, that's everything.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so we estimate about 42% of all hunter days statewide comes out of Region 3 for elk.
Wow,
elk alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how are the elk herds doing in Region 3, would you say? Are population-wise, are they up, down, same? What's that looking like?
They're doing really well. For the most part, they're up. The winter of 22-23, you'll hear a lot about was a hard winter coming off of several years of drought. And elk are incredibly robust species that are very resilient generalists that can eat a lot of different food resources and maintain. And we saw during those drought years, we largely saw a maintenance of elk. And then in that hard winter, we saw about maintenance of elk where other species were dying off from that hard winter, followed up by those drought seasons. But what we did see was a really big harvest of elk in that 22-23 winter. Really driving those elk out of the mountains into the lowlands of the valleys. Hunters getting access through block management or private permissions, and we actually saw a decrease in elk numbers in some of our bigger elk herds that we're actually trying to decrease because we were at the top end or over objective in a lot of these herds.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard is that, and that I think that has happened in several different spots around the state where, some of the private landowners are saying, man, get these things out of here.
Totally, yeah.
So that worked then for you guys.
It really did. But then, and then coming off of that, we had a really moist summer last year and then a really mild winter. And so any gains we made at decreasing elk, they jumped right back.
Yeah. All right. So would you say that elk hunters in Region 3 then should have a pretty good year then?
It should be a phenomenal year. Right now we've had a real warm archery season.
Yeah, that's
now
been a little tough with the warm weather. Yeah.
Get up high. Our Bozeman biologist, she did a goat survey just a few weeks ago, and she said every goat she put eyes on, she could see elk right next to
so
the
they're
goat.
Staying up high.
So they're up high, and so if you're looking for elk, go high until we get some weather to push them down.
Mm-hmm. So for the upcoming rifle season, the general season as we call it, where would you say what hunting districts would you say would be your best bet for hunters? And also talk a bit if there's any kind of major changes in regulations that people should watch out for in some of those areas.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to pick out a single hunting district in Region 3. All of Region 3 is pretty dang good for elk from the west to the east. Elk numbers are up in the Helena area, in the Dillon area, and all the way to the Shields and Paradise Valley. So wherever you might have more local knowledge of the terrain or someone that can take you out just to give you that leg up on understanding an area if you haven't hunted it before, focus on that. One of the big things we're talking about in Region 3 is that there's nowhere in Region 3 now where we're going to say you're not going to run into a grizzly bear. And so
that's been a big concern, hasn't it?
That's a big thing we really want to educate the recreating public on is we have grizzly bears everywhere. Sure, the southern ends of the region are going to be where our higher densities are. So if that is something that you're really concerned about, being on the ground with grizzlies, avoid the southern ends of the region, but don't expect anywhere to be grizzly bear free.
Do you think because of that southern end, would that be a lot of these grizzlies inhabiting the Yellowstone Park area and stuff, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the Yellowstone ecosystem where bears that their range is ever expanding out of the park into the Madison Gallatin Range, into the Gravelies, into the tobacco roots, into the Pioneers. And then we've got the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem that's expanding southward. And sort of that middle ground, we'll call it like Helena, is sort of that space that's getting occupied now. And it's sort of a gradient. So from Helena outwards, the further north you go or the further south you go you're gonna see higher and higher concentrations of grizzly bears. But we've documented them just about everywhere now.
While we're on the subject of that, Morgan, how are you guys doing on? I know the bear aware thing is something you guys have really been trying to concentrate on. We hear it a lot, and it's not just something to talk about. I mean, this is a major concern. Have you had good participation in the bear aware events that you've had going on in Region 3? And maybe talk a bit about how folks might be able to get more information or learn how to use their bear spray, things like that. Because I think that's one of the concern is, okay, I carry this bear spray with me, but do you know how to use it? And do you know how to use it at a moment's notice?
Right. It's been interesting to watch that awareness sort of build, and I think the efforts that we've been making to educate the public have helped in a lot of ways. We just wrapped up Bear Aware Month in September, and that was a big push to provide more events and more trainings for people so they can be more familiar, more comfortable with being prepared in grizzly bear country. So we did have several events in the region that sort of seek to provide that. We talk about bear ecology a little bit. We talk about avoiding conflicts because the best policy is to avoid conflicts in the first place rather than dealing with them. And then there's always a component that provides hands-on training with inert bear spray. As simple as bear spray is to operate, I think that training is critical because you see, when people have a moving target that's coming at them, it becomes about 10 times more difficult to get the safety off and to deploy bear spray quickly. And so that's why that hands-on training is important to be able to provide that. So if people are interested in resources on making grizzly bears part of your plan when you come hunting, which it should be in this part of the state and really anywhere in the western 2/3 of Montana, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks has a lot of resources, a lot of tips on hunting safely in grizzly bear country. And it's important because, as Warren said, they've expanded into areas where they haven't been in a long time. And hunting season overlaps with the time when bears are most active. So it's definitely an important part of that plan that you make.
Yeah, I know that the FWP had got their environmental impact statement, or I can't remember the exact name for it, but I know that you guys have been wanting to be able to manage bears instead of it being so much on the federal level. Do you ever see that happening? Do you think it'll happen where we can manage the bears we have here in Montana through FWP?
The state is seeking that. The state has petitioned the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to delist certain populations of grizzly bears where they have exceeded recovery goals. They're doing very well, and the state is seeking that management. I think that's a point of confusion that's out there. That, well, why doesn't the state just do something about it? Well, the state actively manages grizzly bears on the ground and has been since the recovery process began. It's management authority that currently rests with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the state is seeking for that authority to be transitioned back to the state. Well,
I'm a fan of it myself. I think that needs to be done because nobody knows it better than the people that are right here. So hopefully that gets done. Now, we're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to have Warren talk a little bit about one, and we'll just touch a little bit more on this bear thing, because one of the big concerns is, getting an animal down, and this happens a lot where you've got to leave that kill site. Maybe you're taking part of it out and then you come back. That's where you can run into Yogi, who's, smelled that and said, yeah. So we're going to talk a bit about that, because I think there's some key things you can do and just how you approach that. And then we're going to talk a bit about mule deers, whitetail and that, and get you some ideas of where you can go after those. So we'll do that right after this. Hey, I want to tell you a bit about one of the great businesses that is responsible for making this podcast possible. I'm talking about my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. They're a well-established Montana company with origins starting way back to 1977. They've been proudly serving the Missoula community and, far beyond that since then. Yeah, so no matter where you're listening, they can help you. Now, again, if you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that some of the things Superior Hardwoods is most known for are their extraordinary flooring lines. In fact, a majority of those are manufactured right there in their lumber yard in Missoula. And speaking of flooring, they just introduced the Timeless Pre-Finish series. Now, this is a series designed to simplify the overwhelming task of remodeling and replacing the old worn-out flooring in your home. This new series allows you to effortlessly transform any room pretty much instantly. This flooring is made in America and comes in pre-finished maple, hickory, white oak, red oak, ash, and reclaimed oak. It's just beautiful. It has a superior quality sealer and matte finish to it. Now, this totals 6 coats of durable protection on the floor. But along with all their different flooring lines and their acres of reclaimed beams and lumber, they also offer fantastic products to complete your remodel. Thousands of feet of alder molding and hundreds of square feet of stunning antique paneling. Just beautiful stuff. That's going to make your home feel special to you and your family and friends every time they come see you. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, but when you work with the folks at Superior Hardwoods of Montana, you'll be able to create a look for your home that says who you really are to all who stop by. I guess what I'm trying to say is it completes your remodel project to the point that your house just doesn't have a new look or updated look to it. No, it becomes much more than that. Not just a house you live in, but it is now uniquely your home. And it'll feel that way, not just because the project is completed. No, it will feel that way every time you and your family and friends walk through the door. That, my friends, is the difference that Superior Hardwoods of Montana makes. Stop by their showroom in Missoula, Montana today if you can, or give them a call at 406-251-2272, or just visit their website. It's a great way to get to know them at superior-hardwoods.com. That's superior-hardwoods.com, and let them guide you through the woods. Back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, I want to thank our sponsors. Of course, we wouldn't be able to do this without their help, so thank you so much for that. And, when you guys are thinking about getting a new trailer, a Rocky Mountain trucking trailer, I just can't talk enough about them. They're fantastic. And then Superior Hardwoods, I went and saw the captain of the Montana Outdoor Radio Show, his hardwood floors. He sent me some pictures and that. Wow. Go see their website. They really do some cool stuff. I mean, it's just stunning. Anyway, back to you, Warren. Let's talk a bit about, and then we won't belabor the grizzly bear stuff too much, but it is a serious concern, and I just don't want to gloss over it too much, because we really want all of our hunters to stay around. We don't want them to end up being lunch for the bear. So one of the areas I think that can really cause a lot of danger is you get an elk down or a deer down, and especially with elk, where a lot of times, you can't pack it all out at once. So now you got to come back to that kill site. That's where you can run across the bear. And I know that for a lot of us, we're excited. We just brought that big elk down, and we want to rush back out, get that back out of there. Give us some ideas of maybe how we should approach going back into that kill site because I think that's where the bears really, that's where you're going to run into them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Just some more statistics. We average about 3 to 4 reported bear encounters a year, and that's it's grizzly bear encounters, whether that's a bluff charge or a mauling or the unfortunate fatality. And we're confident there's a lot more than 3 to 4 that are going unreported out there every year. And we've already had several grizzly bears shot during this archery season in defensive life scenarios by archery hunters right now, and bear spray deployed on some other bears. But yeah, a really important thing to do, if possible, if you have an animal down, if you can field dress it and then drag that animal to an open space where you have a lot of visibility, to then work on breaking down that animal and start packing it out. So that way, when you're coming back into that site to get the rest of your meat out, you're not going into a thick area of cover where you're going to surprise a bear. Keeping that gut pile separate from the meat, and making a lot of noise. Ideally, you're not alone. Go in with a buddy or more, so that you can make noise, have lots of eyes and ears open, so that bear can be well aware of you coming in to that area. And again, trying to get that into an open area where you're not going to be surprising that bear in close quarters. And as most people know, it's typically those sows with cubs that are the most dangerous. They're going to be, really aggressive to protect their cubs, and so that's what we really want hunters to be doing is giving those bears a chance to hear you before you even see them. Hopefully that bear is already gone. If there is a bear, whether it was in on the gut pile or in on, we're sniffing around your pile of meat, you won't even know that bear was there because hopefully it already fled the area by making some good noise going into there.
Yeah, and in fact, it was a while back, I was talking with one of your bear specialists, and they had a good idea as far as if you're in that bear country, which Region 3, you're big time into bear country, taking a stick, tall stick, and just wrapping like some, whether it's a bright colored clothing on it, or if you carry a little ribbon, is putting that right in the center of the kill area, and that way you know what to look for. If that's down when you come back, that stick's been knocked down, odds are that's a bear that did that. So
something's
now
been in there,
something's in the area. So now really watch out. But yeah, it's just be careful out there, folks. That's the main thing. Is we just want everybody to have a good, safe, fun hunting season.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of times people are they take out that first package of meat out of the site, and then maybe they leave their firearm or their bear spray behind, and then they're going in empty-handed. And so we've seen a lot of people where it's really good to have that bear spray on your backpack belt buckle, but if you take that backpack off to go look at something around the corner, bring that bear spray with you. You don't ever want to leave that behind.
Yeah. Now let's get into deer a bit. Well, let's start with mule deer. How is the mule deer herds looking here? I know in some areas of the state we're seeing a pretty good decline in mule deer populations. How about for Region 3? What's that looking like?
Yeah, we're seeing that in Region 3 also. We've seen a pretty steady decline of mule deer, since the 1950s statewide, and that includes Region 3. And we speculate on a lot of different reasons for why that might be happening. We're working on securing funding statewide to do a pretty robust mule deer study to better identify sources and causes of that decline. But in more recent history, that drought that we talked about earlier, that heavy winter, certainly didn't help mule deer. But we did see a pretty healthy uptick in mule deer this last year and a half with that good summer and that mild winter. We actually reversed in this last year that downward trend and saw a 1% increase in Region 3 overall for mule deer. But the landscape has changed over those years. Things that we speculate on, timber harvest has really changed. Types of agriculture have really changed. housing developments on winter range, and one of the possibly more controversial topics is competition with elk. We've also seen a recovery of a lot of predator species, and so a lot has changed in the last 70 years in the ecosystem and the ecology of these wildlife species, and we're just trying to figure that out. But we're doing the best we can. Typically, we're seeing, when we see these declines, severe declines in mule deer, and then these increases, it's really tied to climate. How good was the growing conditions in the summer, and how much rainfall did we get, the green up, and then those winter severity conditions.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about wolves here later on, but are wolves getting into the mule deer herds a lot? Are they responsible for any of this reduction that you're hearing of, or no?
I can't say definitively. We don't have really specific research across the region to say, in the tobacco roots, this is happening, in the pioneers, this is happening. But generally speaking, elk are the primary food source for wolves.
Okay.
And we really see really stark contrasts in populations of mule deer tied to rainfall.
Okay. So more weather related than anything. Where would folks go if they were wanting to hunt muleys? Where would be the best spots in Region 3, do you think?
Again, similar to elk, the entire region is pretty dang good mule deer habitat. We don't have the numbers of mule deer that you see in eastern Montana, but statewide, our estimated total, again, of observed mule deer is about 41,000, which comprises just about 13% of the state total of mule deer observed, counted by our wildlife biologists. Harvest, last year, we harvested a little over 7,000 mule deer in Region 3 compared to a statewide total harvest of about 85,000. We have, again, a lot of hunters pursuing those mule deer. We can't really parse it out for certain, but we assume that that's elk hunters who also are looking for a mule deer while they're out there on the ground too.
Sure. Yeah.
So we comprise about 23% of the state total of hunters pursuing mule deer in Region 3. And we actually have the highest participation of mule deer hunters of any other region in Region 3.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Right. Huh. And again, we think that's probably just tied to elk. If you're hunting elk, you're probably looking for mule deer too. But, the Madison Valley, we saw really healthy mule deer numbers. Again, our Bozeman biologist, I think she tied her highest count ever of mule deer in the Madison Valley this past year. They've been struggling in other parts of the region, but they're certainly a mobile animal, a migratory animal. Unlike whitetail that really inhabit a very localized area, mule deer. These mule deer in Region 3 are using the entire Yellowstone ecosystem. If we're all the way into the Big Hole, a lot of those mule deer are going to Idaho in the winter and then coming back in the spring and summer. So again, it's tough to say a specific place to go because there's mule deer a little bit everywhere. The other unique thing about Region 3 that I didn't mention earlier is that it is a very agriculture centric region. We have a lot of ag, we have a lot of cattle in this region as well. And that supports a lot of our wildlife. A lot of alfalfa, a lot of grain grown in this region. And so depending on what you're looking for, whether it's one of those hard to find bucks up in the Alpine or filling a doe tag, look to use those block management areas or find a farmer or a rancher that is looking to get some deer or elk harvested and make friends with them and get access.
Yeah. And in that podcast description, again, folks, you can go and I've got a link in there for you to be able to go right to the block management link for Region 3. And that's going to give you a lot of great information. There's maps in there that can help you and that. So do take a look at that. That block management can be a hunter's very good friend as far as getting that access. How about whitetail? What's whitetail looking like for Region 3?
Generally speaking, whitetail are on the increase in the region. We're seeing more and more whitetail inhabit those riparian corridors of the region. I would say we've got healthy whitetail populations. Again, those whitetail are going to be inhabiting the valley bottoms, which are typically private agricultural communities. So you're going to be looking at getting access onto those private lands to hunt those whitetails. So again, it's going to require knocking on doors and making friends to get access to those. But we do have robust whitetail populations, particularly down in our valley bottoms.
Yeah, and another tip for you hunters when we talk about getting access is the FWP and other organizations out there. If you even just Google hunting access in Montana, things like that, you can get a lot of tips. But obviously, a good one is be respectful. Try to plan ahead. Don't do this last minute, and then. The other thing is be sure and let them know what, instead of saying, hey, can I hunt here? Let them know what you want to hunt for, because as you just said, a lot of times these landowners, they may say, hey, oh, you're hunting whitetail. Absolutely. I need to get some of those out of here or whatever. So let them know, because sometimes that can help. And then the other tip that I use all the time, because I grew up on a cattle ranch, was offer to, help them out a little as far as, hey, is there anything that I can look for while I'm out there? If I see gates, here's where I'm going to be going. Should those be closed? Tell me how I can help you and be your eyes and ears for you. And I think that they respect that. If you're going to, help them out and be respectful of their area, they're more apt to give you that permission, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, start that early and plan it out early. Right in the middle of hunting season is, particularly in Region 3, not the best time to be doing that because these landowners are getting pretty tired already in the season. There's just so much participation in this part of the state that landowners are getting overwhelmed with people looking for opportunities to hunt. So start it in March and volunteer a weekend.
Without a doubt. And the other thing, and I can speak from experience, because I know with my dad, he got to the point where he just didn't want to allow hunting anymore, because they assume, oh, well, a rancher hunter, they're always up at 5 a.m, so it's okay to beat on the door then. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Because like you say, they're trying to get a little rest too. So, be respectful, plan this out, and you guys know what to do. Just use some common sense there. So whitetail, you think we've got a pretty good chance? Would you say for folks that would like to harvest some whitetail that they're going to do pretty well this year in Region 3?
Yeah, definitely. If you can get that access into some of that valley bottom riparian corridors, whether it's a block management area or finding some of those pieces of state or federal land that overlap, there's a good healthy population.
Mm-hmm.
I think, let's see if I have some statistics here. About 16% of the state rifle harvest comes out of Region 3. We harvested a little over 7,000 whitetails out of Region 3 last year. And about 19% of the state archery harvest is coming out of Region 3
really?
for
19%?
whitetails. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So how about for shifting gears a little bit, what about for the fall bear? Is that something that Region 3 would be good, for the black bear? Obviously, you can't hunt grizzlies yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, Region 3 is a little bit unique. We don't have any quotas for bear. It's just an open season in Region 3, spring and fall harvest. And so statewide harvest last year, well, actually in 2022 is my statistic I have here, is a little over 2,000 bears harvested statewide. Just over 400 of those came out of Region 3, or about 19%. So, yeah, we certainly have a healthy black bear population. We are currently working with our state research program to better understand what exactly our black bear population is. We don't have any good estimates for surveying and counting black bears, and so that's what we're working on now. A collaring and a genetic study to better estimate what our population is, so that we can better manage that species. But we certainly have great opportunity for black bear, but knowing that we have grizzly bear too. So take that species ID course and know what you're looking at. Big
time there, especially for some of you out of state hunters that maybe are used to having really not any population of grizzlies, are very low. So you're always coming across that in Montana. You really need to know to tell the difference, and color is not going to be the thing that will tell you
That's
that.
Right. Yeah.
And there's that course that you can get, and you can get that on the FWP site. You can Google it. It's a pretty simple course. It's really important to understand it, and once you do, you should be pretty confident at that point to know, okay, yep, that's a black bear, or nope, that's a grizzly. You do not want to make that mistake.
That's for sure. And this area is dominated is a choke cherry system for black bears, and it's been real mixed across the region. Here in the Bozeman area, if I get this right, I think that the winter was really hard on the choke cherries. We don't have much of a crop. But moving out to different areas, it's real patchy. Some areas are really heavy with choke cherries, and other areas were pretty sparse. And we see that unfold with our black bears that are getting into trouble. Black bears that are getting into chicken coops or beehives or trash cans. So every year is different, and we really see those conflicts move around and shift depending on where those wild food resources are available. So as a hunter or a non-hunter, always be sure to secure your attractants.
Yeah.
Black bear or grizzly bear.
Yeah, a friend of mine has some great apple trees, and last couple of years I've said, well, how come I don't get any of that great apple pie you used to have? They've said, talk to the black bear about it, because they got them all. How about for antelope, or for you purists out there? I always get these emails. It's pronghorn. It's pronghorn. But how about that in Region 3? What do you see in there? Is that good hunting for antelope in Region 3 much?
It can be. We have antelope pretty much across the entire region. Kind of the southwest corner of this region is where we keep the bulk of our antelope. But we have them from the Paradise Valley to the Big Hole, and we see about 17% of our statewide harvest is from Region 3 rifle harvest for antelope. One thing that our biologists are really taking note of right now is the archery season for antelope, that 900-20 archery license. We see a pretty disproportionately high harvest coming out of Region 3 from that archery license. I actually have some statistics here I can read to you that are quite a bit to take in. But last year, that 900 license, we harvested just out of two of our hunting districts, 320 and 322, 114 antelope bucks harvested.
Wow. Okay.
So just out of those two districts, that comprised 50% of the Region 3 total harvest. So region-wide, 50% came out of those two hunting districts.
And say those hunting districts again?
320 and 322.
Okay.
Now compare that to all of Region 4. That's 248% of the harvest coming out of those two hunting districts compared to Region 4. 137% compared to Region 5. 41% compared to Region 6. I think I actually skipped one of those. It was 50% for Region 3, 50% for Region 4, 248% for Region 6, 137% for Region 7.
Wow.
And so a lot of attention archery harvest coming out of Region 3, particularly these two hunting districts. And that's not a permit that we can adjust like we can our rifle permits. Pretty much across the region, all of our rifle quotas are at the bottom end that we can put them before we eliminate that rifle opportunity. And we're exceeding those harvests just with that archery harvest within the region. And so it's something we're really taking note of. Our buck-doe ratios are continuing to decrease, and that's likely due to this high archery harvest. So as a region, we're probably going to be looking into addressing that in some form.
Okay. So the archery guys got it dialed in pretty well.
They're getting after it for sure.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
How about, and I know this can be a bit of a controversial subject for some, but what about the wolf population for wolf hunting in Region 3? I would think that would be pretty good here in Region 3, or no?
It is.
Yeah,
it is good.
So.
Gosh, I think our quota this year is 52 wolves is our regional quota, and then we've broken up two other hunting districts on the northern boundary of Yellowstone, Region 313 and 316 for wolves. 3 wolves apiece as a quota in those two hunting districts, and then 52 as a regional quota. Region 3 regularly meets that quota. We're filling that quota, and again, we've got a big diversity of game. We got a lot of elk, which I said earlier is the primary food source for wolves.
Yeah,
and we got a lot of livestock, which regularly we're having to address some of those wolf depredation issues with livestock, and so it's a very diverse region in that regard, and we actually see the highest hunter participation for wolves in the state. I believe it's something around 40,000 hunters are pursuing wolves as
that's statewide.
Just in Region 3.
Just in Region 3, 40,000.
Yeah, as a species to hunt. So trapping is a whole different issue.
Yeah.
The next highest region, I think, is around 20,000 hunters pursuing those wolves. So we've got a lot of people that are interested in hunting wolves in the region.
Morgan, did you have something to add there?
Well, I was just going to ask, Warren, would you say that the wolf hunting in Region 3 is more opportunistic as opposed to specifically pursuing wolves when compared to, like, say, northwestern Montana, or what? Do you have a sense on what that looks like?
Yeah. Compared to northwest Montana, northwest Montana is really a conifer-dominated system, really short sight distances. Where Region 3, we've got this mixed mosaic of alpine conifer, and then valley bottoms are really open, and then put in the number of game that we have on the ground and the number of livestock we have on the ground. So there's a lot of things for wolves to eat here in Region 3. And so we see a lot of hunters who are specifically pursuing wolves. But like you said, Morgan, there's a lot of opportunistic hunters who are able to put a wolf tag in their pocket while they're pursuing other species.
So We've got some great wolf opportunities here, and it sounds like good hunter participation for the wolves then too. So
great hunter participation.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I had no idea it was that popular here. So, all right, well, get after it, hunters, and make sure you really watch your regs on that and know what you're doing there.
That's right.
That's super important.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
and
Morgan.
So FWP does maintain a harvest dashboard for wolves that sort of keeps track of that harvest as the season goes on and as it continues into the trapping season. And so, as Warren mentioned, there are quotas for that, and so keep that in mind. Even if you are opportunistically hunting, you have to be aware of where those quotas are before you take one.
Yeah, and you guys have made some changes on your website to that dashboard. It's at first it was when you first started doing that, it was kind of hard to follow, but now it's pretty easy to see, what's left in as far as in the quota and all that. But that's a really good point. Be careful there, because as you say, oh, there's a wolf, I'll grab it. That area may be already maxed out, so we got to be careful on that, huh?
Yeah, and I think some of the places with, especially on the very southern end of Region 3, have some of the smaller quotas. They're more adjacent to Yellowstone National Park, and so those quotas tend to be met early on. And then other districts have larger quotas where there's a little more wiggle room, a little more time for some of that harvest to take place, I think. Is that accurate, Warren? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and for those of you, I know that we're taking a little more time than we usually do, but that's the beauty of podcasts. We can take as much time as we want. And keep in mind, folks, that these podcasts don't go away. So, if you need to get up and use the restroom or whatever, you can just pause it. It's there forever. It won't go away. So keep that in mind. But there's so much to cover here in Region 3, and it is such an important hunting space. I want to be able to take this time. So I appreciate both of you for putting up with me here for so long. So we've covered a lot of the game opportunities, but one area that I'd like to spend a little time on, Warren, is the bird opportunities. You covered some of it but let's go with waterfowl first here. What is the waterfowl season outlook for Region 3? How do you think we're going to do there?
What I've been reading from our waterfowl coordinator is that the waterfowl outlook's going to look good. Region 3, I don't think would be considered a destination location for waterfowl. It's fairly limited. We do have Canyon Ferry, which is a great place to pursue waterfowl. I was just at Clark Canyon Reservoir a couple of weeks ago and saw a lot of ducks and geese there.
That's a decent place.
Ennis Lake is a place you see a few waterfowl hunters. And again, you do see a lot of waterfowl using stubble fields, grain fields. So again, that's just looking for access to use those opportunities.
But for bird hunters, it's probably for Region 3, you're much more, I would assume, is much more upland game birds that people are coming to Region 3 for, or hunting in Region 3 for. Would that be correct?
Yeah, definitely upland game birds. Again, we do have some good pheasant opportunities within the region, particularly now that we have this pheasant release program. And like I spoke about earlier, those mountain grouse opportunities are pretty good. And you actually, we've got a program here in the state where we permit private landowners to release game birds for private hunting. We call those shooting preserves. And and of course they don't stay put, they move around. And so, I've got people telling me, I just saw, a bunch of chucker and Three Forks. And so you can find a pretty diverse array of upland game species, from Hungarian partridge to chucker, to even bob white in places. And just get out and look around and you might be surprised what you kick up.
Oh, okay. For some of the pheasants that are released in this region, I know, like for the youth hunt and that, are a lot of those still being raised at the Department of Corrections, and that is it?
All of them, yeah.
All of them are, okay. Yep. So that's still the case. Yeah, my favorite joke is that when you hunt those, you just have to return the little orange jumpsuits. From
That's right. Yeah, I think, was it the week
Sorry,
before
folks,
last?
I always have to throw that one in.
The week before last, we released a little over 300 pheasants on Canyon Ferry and 70 on Lake Helena WMA. And we're going to continue releasing those pheasants in similar numbers throughout the hunting season at those sites and other FWP lands around the region.
As far as going after pheasant in Region 3, how do you think it compares to, I think the north central and central Montana is probably one of the hotter spots for pheasants. How would you rate Region 3 compared to that? I mean, is it pretty good pheasant hunting overall?
Oh, it's tough. I'd say it is pretty good pheasant hunting overall, but, you might have to duck every now and then with someone shooting pretty close to you.
Yeah.
Whereas you get out in some other parts of Montana, you can be all alone when you hunt. We really have a lot of love for the resource in this region and a pretty good human population base. So, you're going to be out there with big game hunters and duck hunters and fisher and dog walkers and joggers and everybody else when you're out looking for game in Region 3.
Yeah, that's going right back to the old know your target and beyond and all that stuff.
Right.
And also be aware that some people don't watch that very carefully. So, just be careful out there and wear the right colors and, do the thing there for that. Let's talk a little bit about the check stations. Where are your check stations for Region 3? Is that something that you guys are really emphasizing in this region of trying to gather that data? And if so, what kind of data are you trying to get?
Yeah, absolutely. Check stations are an important source of data for us on getting hunter participation and harvest rates and animal quality, animal age. So we'll have check stations, north of Helena. We'll have a check station at Gallatin Gateway, check station on the Madison River near our Bear Creek Wildlife Management Area, check stations in Dillon and Sheridan, check station in Shield and Paradise Valley. And we rotate them around. Not all of them are staffed, every day or necessarily every weekend. Often we try to capture opening weekend and closing weekend of the 5-week general season. So just you see that sign, whether you didn't get anything or you did. It's all really important information to our biologists to stop in and let them know what you saw and if you harvested or if you didn't.
And it is required.
It is.
So it does surprise me every year of how many times I hear, I didn't know it was required. I thought that was an option. It's not.
Right.
So, and it doesn't take very long to get through the check station, does it? I mean, you guys are, I know this is a very busy region, but you guys get people through there pretty quick, don't you?
Yeah. It's just sort of a checklist where you're getting, some basic information and we can move you right along. But often, if you're not successful that day, just chatting with that biologist, they can probably give you some really good information about where you might want to go look next weekend, or maybe you did harvest an animal, and those biologists can look at the teeth of that animal and give you some interesting information, biological information about the animal. They can also help you pull the lymph nodes for testing for CWD.
And are you doing the CWD testing at all your check stations, or is there one in particular that you need to go to get that? I know some are saying, if you're harvesting mule deer, you need to, it's mandatory or whatever. Go over that a little bit with me so we just understand what all we have to do there. Because I know some it's been, you have to go to this certain station to get that done and that checked out for you. Is that at everyone in Region 3?
So during the general season, we don't have any mandatory testing in Region 3. I can get into a little bit of information about one of our hot spots for CWD, where outside of the general season, we have a targeted management hunt to decrease in particular white-tailed deer population, where mandatory testing is part of that that management hunt. But statewide, all of your lymph nodes are coming to the state lab, actually here in Bozeman, just across the street from our office here, to get tested for the prion of chronic wasting disease. And so you can pull those lymph nodes yourself, and you can send them in the mail or drop them off at a designated site, or we do have designated CWD areas where a technician can help you pull those lymph nodes if you're unfamiliar with it. I don't know those sites off the top of my head. Do you, Morgan?
Yeah, sometimes they change depending on demand and time of the season. And so really the best, some advice that I would give hunters, one is it's really easy to take these samples yourself. There's video instruction on our website on how to extract those lymph nodes. But if you do need help, there are places you can go to get those done. And the best thing I would say is to look at our website, which will have an updated list of where those sampling stations are, what hours they're operating, because they do change a little bit depending on staffing, depending on demand from hunters and things like that. The regional offices can also take CWD samples during business hours as well. So there's lots of resources for people to be able to take those samples.
All right, and I'll try to get a link to that as well down in the podcast description there. So if you think about it, maybe you can send me a link too.
Yeah, and that's one of the easier ones. It's fwp.mt.gov/CWD, and that'll get you to all that information.
All right, so I'll put that in there so you guys can get that, and that's going to help you get some more information on that. So check stations, super important, and this is for both of you, whoever wants to answer first. But as far as challenges for Region 3 go, I mean, we've heard a lot of great stuff about Region 3 as far as it sounds like big game and all that, very healthy populations across the region. And that, are there any specific challenges that you guys face in Region 3 that you're trying to tackle? What would you say are maybe the top 1 or 2 or 3 challenges that you run across here that you're trying to deal with?
Yeah. Region 3 is a pretty phenomenal place. What makes it special are all the opportunities. We talked about deer, elk, antelope, upland game bird, grizzly bears, black bears. We're the only region in the state that offers a bison hunt. We got 70 draw licenses currently for bison. 50% of the moose draw licenses come out of Region 3. 85% of the goat licenses for the state come out of Region 3. 30% of the sheep limited permit types or licenses are coming out of Region 3. Region 3 also, we deal with brucellosis in our bison and our elk populations. We're dealing with CWD. And I've talked a lot about all of the public interest in wildlife in Region 3, whether that's, people just looking to view wildlife or people looking to harvest wildlife. We've got a big demand on our resources from the public. Our biologists have a lot to do. We have a lot of different ungulate species, bears, lions, and fur bear species that our biologists are managing, and so they get spread pretty thin. And just on top of the abundant and diverse wildlife in the region that they're working to survey, and the habitat work they're doing to enhance, working with private landowners, working with our state and federal partners for habitat enhancement for all these species. And then just trying to keep on top of the phone calls of all the interested, passionate members of the public wanting information about wildlife. We're having some capacity issues in the region, trying just to stay on top of all the demands that the public is putting on us and the wildlife. and working with our agricultural community, farmers and ranchers. It's a very busy region. There isn't a quiet time of year.
Yeah.
We cycle through lynx surveys, pine marten surveys during the winter, wolverine surveys. It's always something that we're tasking our staff to do. And so that's probably our biggest challenge is just meeting those capacity issues and those demands, but then having those somewhat unique challenges of brucellosis to manage within this region is a tough one.
Wow. Okay. I'm just getting tired hearing all this. That's a lot. Morgan, what about you? What would you say are some of the big tough ones for Region 3 challenges?
I don't think I can sum it up better than how Warren has put it. I think Region 3 has a little bit, or maybe a lot, of every kind of management challenge you can think of. And you ask anyone who's lived in Bozeman for longer than 5 years, they'll tell you it's changed a lot. And there's a lot of places in Montana, I think, that could say the same. And so, the great thing about Region 3 is the level of opportunity that's here. One of the challenges is there's a lot of people that know that. There's a lot of people that come to partake in that, and so we wind up managing people just as much as we're managing wildlife, and it's a challenge, but we're always trying to strike a balance between providing the most opportunity that we can, managing the resources best we can, and it's a very, very dynamic challenge that's there.
Well, one of the things I want to hit on before we go is the public comment that, we see this quite often. I always try, whether it's on the Montana Outdoor Radio Show or on this podcast or that, as far as trying to let people know that, hey, the FWP is looking for this comment or that. And one of the things I get back all the time, and you hear me harp about this, but I'm not going to stop, folks, is people go, oh, they just say that because they have to say that. They really don't listen to the public comments. That is not true, is it?
No, I mean it's critical, right? These are public resources, and as members of the public, as the people who these resources belong to, it's so important to stay involved, stay up to date on things, and it can be overwhelming sometimes. The number of issues we ask for public comments on, it can be, I think there's a little bit of fatigue that occurs with people who do stay engaged and involved. There's a lot to keep track of, and so that's another challenge that's there. But it's so important to stay involved, because if we don't get that public feedback, then sometimes we just have to make the best decision we can with the information we have. But we're always looking for more information.
Yeah. And, that's the thing. If you don't let them know, they don't know. It's that simple. So I really hope you guys will take this to heart and really try your best to, and as Morgan pointed out, sometimes it is a little overwhelming, and that's okay. If it's an area that you don't know a lot about, well, that's fine. I get it. You don't need to comment on something you're not, passionate about or that. But so many times I hear you guys in my email box say, why don't they do this, or why don't they do that, or here's what I think. Well, I'm more than happy to hear from you, and I'll pass it on, and you can say whether you want your name behind it or just be anonymous. I don't care. I want that information. I'll flow it to them, but go direct to them and get that information, because I know, like Warren, when you're getting your reports and doing your forecasts and trying to figure out what's next for next year, that public comment thing comes in to play big time, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's huge. That's one of our main jobs, is to serve the public, and it's a moving target constantly. What the public holds as a priority for the management of a lot of these wildlife, and so we got to hear how you want it best managed, so that we can shape those decisions.
Yeah. So get after it and do it. I really hope you guys will all take that to heart. I've taken a lot of your time, and I really, really appreciate both Morgan and you, Warren, for spending all this time with me. But this is such an important region. Well, all of them are in Montana, but this one, as you've just heard, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of stuff that's going on in Region 3, and we, just kind of scratching the surface here. But what would you say, and I'll start with you, Morgan, what would you say is the thing you're most proud of for Region 3 that you guys have accomplished?
One of the things that I enjoy most about working here is the team that's here. We have people who have the same level of passion for the resource as the people that we work for, and that is contagious, and it's very enjoyable to enjoy and appreciate what's here in Montana when you're around people who share that enthusiasm. So, I'm proud of the team that's here and the opportunity to work with them, and that's part of why I come to work every day.
Warren, how about you? What are you most proud of as far as what's been accomplished at Region 3?
Yeah, I'd say Morgan pretty much took the words out of my mouth as well. Like I said earlier, I just came here 2.5 years ago, and I fell into an incredible wildlife team. We've got a pretty good mix of biologists that have been here from 20 plus years to 4 years, and they are a incredibly brilliant bunch of biologists. I'd absolutely say they're some of the best biologists in the world right here, working on all these wildlife issues. For fish, wildlife, and parks. They're very talented and very passionate. I ride on all of their shoulders. They're the ones getting the hard work done out in the field, and thinking about these hard questions, from brucellosis and CWD management to elk game damage on agricultural crops, to elk and mule deer competition. It's just it's never ending. There's a lot out there, and it's just a phenomenal team to be a part of.
What about when you take your wildlife manager hat off and you're just the average guy out looking to hunt? What's your favorite thing to go after here in Region 3?
It's one of those things where the opportunities are so many, you get a little bit overwhelmed. Like, oh gosh, I need to, sage grouse season ends September 30th. I gotta get out and
store thing,
exactly. Yeah. I gotta go get a sage grouse, and then every week has got either around the state or around the region, different unique fishing opportunities that are peaking at different locations. I love to do it all, and so that's how I get overwhelmed. Whether it's chasing deer and elk, or fishing in any of these great water bodies that we have. There's so much great opportunity. It's just and the weather is great typically in Southwest Montana compared to other places I've lived. There's pretty much no excuse not to be going out and recreating and taking advantage of these different resources. So I can't put my finger on any one thing.
I know it's a tough, especially in this region, it's a tough question to answer. Yeah.
I'd say I probably started out more as a waterfowl person. I just loved hunting ducks and geese, and I'm kind of transitioning a little bit more upland now that I've moved to Bozeman, I think, and I've really been enjoying pursuing that. And can't get enough of deer and elk, that's for sure. Yeah.
What about you, Morgan? You have a favorite that you love to go after here in Region 3?
I'm kind of in the same boat as Warren, where I kind of do it all too. what I enjoy most is doing something on the way to or on the way home from work. Stopping by, a river and fishing for an hour in the morning, or trying to go look for a grouse up in the woods too. So we're lucky that we have these opportunities, and the same could be said, I think, for any region in Montana. Just the ability to go and do that. Montana's a really, really special place.
And on the communications side of it, and this might be really tough to answer, but is there any one thing that you'd really like to get from the public that maybe you're not getting enough of? How can we help as far as just being out there in Region 3?
We always appreciate hearing from folks if they see something that's concerning or that they have questions about. We're always happy to answer questions or take feedback. And like Warren said, sometimes we're spread a little bit thin. Another interesting statistic about Region 3 is we have almost a third of the state's fishing access sites here in the region. And so there's a lot of places we manage, and so we can't be everywhere at once, and we rely on the public to let us know if they see something, whether it's hey, I noticed the cattle guard's down at such and such fishing access site, or hey, I saw something that looks suspicious that game warden should look into. Please give us a call, because we certainly want to know about those things.
Yeah, for sure. And don't think, well, somebody else already reported it. Just go ahead and throw it out there and let people know.
Yeah, I mean, it's better safe than sorry to report things redundantly than to not say anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you being here, Morgan, and spending time with us, because this is just such an amazing region. And so it's been great to get to know it a little bit better.
Yeah, I've heard it called Ground Zero because it all starts here in Region 3.
Yeah.
How about you, Warren? Any last thoughts here before we head out? Anything we didn't cover you wanted to make sure that we got across?
Oh boy, there's certainly a lot to cover. I think one important thing.
I'll be back now that I know where you're at. I'm going to keep coming back.
For everyone to remember is pick up those regulations and be sure to read them carefully. Especially those people that are hunting the same place year after year. Whether it's a big regulation change or a small one, they're often getting tweaked. And nothing is, for certain to be from one year to the next. So just want you to be sure to look at the area that you're going to be, hunting or fishing in, look at those regulations, and, basically assume that it's changed from last year, even though the bulk of them haven't changed. We had a boundary change this year in hunting deer and elk hunting district 314, 313. That'll be a big one for the public to keep an eye out for. Yeah,
that's true. I think I mentioned that. I also do another radio show for the Northern News Network on outdoors, and I talked about that a little bit. That was a pretty big
that's a big one.
Can get confusing.
Absolutely. One thing we've heard a lot about this year is the dates that the youth season coincides with. That's often a moving date that we match up with those PIR school days, so that we put that youth season on those days. Those kids don't have school.
Yeah, that's the youth deer hunt.
Yeah.
that goes on. When is that, Morgan, for the youth deer hunt here in Region 3? Well,
usually
across the state.
Yeah, usually it's a week or two before the start of the general season, I believe.
Right.
And it's on a weekend. So, check the regulations on that.
I'll put a link to it. There's a really good explanation there on your website. So I'll put a link to that. The other thing, as Warren just brought up, I'll put a link down there in the podcast links for all the. It's one link, and when you click that, it'll give you all the hunting regulations for everything that you ever wanted to hunt. So then all you have to do is look at it, and you just go to Region 3, and you'll see it right there. So check that out. And it's kind of nice to just have that link with you now. And nowadays in the digital world, you got it, boom, you can just access it right away.
Yeah. And Dale, if I could add one more thing
Sure.
that kind of came into my mind is, with the amount of hunting or amount of hunters that we have in the state, and you've mentioned access a couple of times being a challenge, the behavior of hunters has become more important than ever before, and for reasons mostly to preserve those opportunities. And so one thing we are continuing to encourage people is to make good decisions when you're in the field, because we have a saying, it's called "it's up to us," right? And so if hunters understand that their access opportunities depend on the decisions that they make while they're in the field, I think it helps us remember that what we do in the field is being observed by hunters and non-hunters, by landowners, by the general public. And so if we want to be able to continue to enjoy these opportunities, we've got to have a plan. We've got to have good relationships with landowners. We've got to represent the sport well.
I'm glad you brought that up. In fact, in the last podcast that I did for Region 6, 1.3 million acres now for block management up there, and they attribute that to the great job that hunters are doing, and that landowners are saying, hey, that went really well. I think we'll keep doing that. Might encourage a neighbor area to do it. So, yeah, let's keep that up, because that does gain access. And Region 6 hunters, you did great. So let's keep it going, because it'd be nice to see that increase here in Region 3, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, like Warren said, we have the smallest number of acres in block management, but some of the highest pressure. And so for some of these landowners, if we have hunters who are very good guests while they're on the property, then it really helps facilitate opportunities like that going forward. But if we see even just small little things like trash getting left behind, or it kind of becomes a death by 1,000 cuts situation where the total cumulative impact really becomes significant with how much pressure they get.
Yeah, I got a great email last season from a landowner who said, I was so impressed with the group that I let come in. They stopped by and asked where our garbage was, because they had picked up a bunch of garbage on my property. And he said it was unbelievable how much they unloaded and did. So he said, absolutely, those guys are welcome back anytime. So that helps. So, yeah, thank you very much, you hunters that are doing it right, because you are giving us the access that we need. So, well, guys, I really want to thank you both very much. I hope I can come back again here soon, because there's so much more that I wanted to cover, and so we'll cover more here in Region 3. But this is a pretty special place.
It really is. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Now I'm gonna wander around in this library we're sitting in and start going through all your books and stuff and learning more. It's just pretty neat, pretty impressive in here.
This is the heart of the region right here. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll put some pictures of that too. Hey guys, thanks again so much for spending so much time with me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Dale.
You bet. Well, there you have it, folks. Region 3. Tell you what, this has been a great podcast. Now, we got lots of links there in the podcast description, so be sure and check all those out. If you have any questions, you'll also find in the links section there on the podcast description the link to Warren's email as well as to Morgan's email. So feel free to click on that, ask them any questions you want, comments. Also, if you got any questions for me, I'd love to hear from you as well. And that link is down there too. So hope to hear from you soon. Until then, gang, be safe out there, be good to each other, and we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.